Let me tell you a story of basketball lore. One time there was a guard who was an absolute energizer, but also, notably, one of the best players in the league. That guard played with an intensity that nobody could match. That guard also was left by their star partner to the team that eliminated them in the postseason. And when expectations were at their lowest, followed it up with one of the greatest individual seasons in basketball history. Now, who am I talking about? If you caught on, you might know that I'm talking about Russell Westbrook and his 2016-2017 NBA MVP season following Kevin Durant's departure. But didn't that sound just a little bit familiar? We have a chance to see a recreation of that same story in this women's college basketball season, and it comes from Hannah Hidalgo. With the departure of Olivia Miles to TCU, the team that Notre Dame was eliminated by in the NCAA tournament, and Sonia Citron to the WNBA joining the Washington Mystics, expectations are not at the Notre Dame standard that we have come to know. In an ACC without a true dominant program that is expected to run the conference this season, frankly, it feels a bit weird to not see Notre Dame as the program close to having that expectation of dominance. So when you have those low expectations for a team generally, obviously we're talking more so in comparison to what Notre Dame expectations have been like in the past. What can be the two best things that are gifted to a team that has low expectations? Motivation and freedom. As if Hannah Hidalgo needed any more of those two things, that is what has been gifted to her as we head into this season. And look, to put it frankly, it isn't hard to make the case that if these are your expectations and you could pick a player in the country that is leading your team through this type of season, that Hannah Hidalgo is at the top of that list across the country of the player you would choose in order to lead you through this. Look, I have been lucky enough to see Hannah Hidalgo play in person, and watching the way that she can elevate her team, elevate the floor energy-wise of her teammates is something that is genuinely a skill. A lot of people talk about dog mentality and all those things, but I'm telling you, the way that energy transfers from Hannah Hidalgo to her teammates is a skill. On top of that, when you look at it from a more quantitative and statistical perspective, there's honestly no reason to not expect Hannah Hidalgo's stats to actually go up from last year, especially when you look at how last year's stats changed from her freshman year without Olivia Miles. In her freshman year, when Olivia Miles was out due to injury, Hidalgo averaged 5.5 assists per game. Last year, when she was splitting those playmaking responsibilities with Miles, she dropped to 3.6 assists per game. Nearly 2 assists down is a genuinely massive blow. Like, that is not anything to scoff at by any means. And the talent surrounding her this year will have to do their part. But to me, it just simply isn't ridiculous to think that Hannah can get the numbers back up to her primary playmaker levels. And also, it's more than just the assists. Obviously, the scoring was there last year, but her rebounds also dropped from 6.2 her freshman year to 5 per game last year. And with the departure of a player like a Kate Koval, Hidalgo's responsibility in crashing the boards as a guard is bound to be as high as you can possibly imagine. Like I said, we already know that the scoring is going to be there for Hidalgo. There is just simply no doubt in that. I don't think that is going to change by any means. Here is the hypothetical, the caveat, whatever you want to call it. It's striking the healthy balance. It's striking the balance between being that incredibly dominant scorer that we know Hannah Hidalgo can be and likely will be over the course of this season, while also being the playmaker that this team is going to need her to be. Finding the assists, finding her teammates. And again, it's going to take her teammates doing their part as well. But if she can find that balance from scorer and playmaker without having to force anything or find herself forcing things, ooh, buddy. I mean, we're talking about a player that is one of the best in the country right now that has the potential to go and have one of the elite statistical seasons that we have seen. That is the type of season that could potentially be on the horizon for Hannah Hidalgo. And I'll tell you something that was interesting to me when I was looking at the stats comparing the freshman year to the sophomore year and kind of looking at what this season could potentially look like for Hannah Hidalgo without Olivia Miles there. And one of the more interesting areas of growth was the efficiency. And notably, the volume didn't change all that much in terms of shooting. It actually increased in some areas. So as we go into this season, let's look at the efficiency here and how that might stack up as we go into the dominant Hannah Hidalgo season that we might be seeing. So let's look at these percentages. Her field goal percent had a small increase from 44.6% to 46.3%. Obviously, not the biggest increase there, but let's keep going because the free throw percent went up 8% from 77.6 to 85.6, which obviously is a very genuine increase there. But most notably to me was 3-point percent. 34% her freshman year. Not bad, but it got up to 40% her sophomore year, with a volume increase notably in that second year where she reached nearly 6 threes a game. Now, I am not saying that Hidalgo is going to go and put up the triple-double averages that Westbrook averaged, but goodness, as I continue to look across the stats and the idea storyline-wise of what this could look like, you can't say that the parallels aren't incredibly evident. With several big-name games, including a massive one against UConn, against a player in Sarah Strong who was likely going to have the largest thing to say about any player's National Player of the Year case across the board. You have that game in stores in January. You also have the massive ACC matchups that we are going to see. There's going to be statement games to make this National Player of the Year case for Hannah Hidalgo if everything lines up. When you look at National Player of the Year or MVP cases, to me, there was 3 things that every case must hit: stats, standings, and storylines. Let's break this down here. Again, I've talked about the stats. I don't expect the stats to be a problem for Hannah Hidalgo. The scoring will be there. I expect increases in the rebounding and assists. The defense, which we haven't even talked about, is absolutely top-notch, unmatchable with the steals numbers that she has had over the course of her career. I'm not worried about that. So the stats, I feel like we can generally check off as an okay. I think we're going to get this from Hannah Hidalgo. The storyline, again, this is relatively an easy storyline to follow. Players left, expectations low, Hannah Hidalgo did something about it. That is an easy storyline to follow and an easy case to make in terms of a player being most valuable in the National Player of the Year. The big thing here is the standings. Can Hannah Hidalgo lead Notre Dame to a healthy amount of wins? Or we can make this case. Can she be the engine that leads them to the top of the ACC? Again, an ACC that doesn't truly have that dominant team like maybe the SEC might have, that is going to have the expectation of rolling over. Same thing with like UCLA in the Big Ten. The ACC doesn't have that. Can Notre Dame, can Hannah Hidalgo lead Notre Dame to the top of the ACC? That would be a massive feather in the cap of whatever this Hannah Hidalgo season is about to be. Those are the big questions. And if she does, if she's able to answer those questions, the stats will likely be there. The standings would be there if those answers are a yes. And the storyline will write itself. And we might be treated to one of the best individual seasons and most exciting individual seasons we have seen in women's basketball.